Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. I'm Mackie Hall, and I will be quick with it. Have you ever had that Illustrator build where it was just tough to get to that element or shape that you've wanted? I have for sure. If you want to compose a good design or build complex graphics, layers have to be part of your game. They just make it easy to segregate, hide, and locate specific elements or shapes. By the way, including layers is also great when exporting Illustrator art into other applications for composition or animation or whatever else. With that in mind, I'll throw in a little bonus on exporting to Photoshop at the end of this piece. Let's go. All right, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new document. Our new document will have a width of 1,000 points, a height of 1,000 points, a single artboard, and the RGB color mode. Before we get started, I want to remind you that we are using the Essentials Classic layout. To use the Essentials Classic layout, all we need to do is click on the top right-hand corner of our screen and select Essentials Classic. One more thing worth noting is that we are using Smart Guides. To activate Smart Guides, go to View and select Smart Guides, or of course, enter Control-U. Last thing I want to mention is that we'll be using the bottom center of the page to show tips and tricks and key command recommendations. All right, let's get started. Before we get started, let's go ahead and set up our page. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to create a 5-point star. The way we do that is we'll click and hold our rectangle tool and select Star Tool. Once there, we'll click anywhere on the page and we'll create a star with a radius 1 of 50 points, radius 2 of 20 points, and of course 5 points. We'll click OK. Once done with that, let's change our stroke to transparent, and then we'll change our fill color to yellow. Looks good right there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to align our star to center horizontally and vertically. We'll do that by clicking on the Align tool at the top of the page, just like that. If you don't have the Align tool visible, all you need to do is select Window, Align, or Shift F7. Once done, let's deselect our shape by grabbing our selection tool, clicking anywhere on screen. Our next thing we'll do is we will create a 100-point circle. The way we do that is we'll click and hold our star tool and select our ellipse tool. Next, we'll click anywhere on our artboard and we'll create our ellipse that's 100 points wide and 100 points tall. Once done, let's change our fill color to red. We'll do that by clicking our fill color once again, selecting red, and clicking OK. There you go. Once done, once again, we're going to use our Align tools to center our circle on the page. Again, we'll click at the top, we'll horizontally align, and then vertically align as well. Let's go ahead and deselect. We'll do that by grabbing our selection tool, clicking anywhere on screen to deselect our circle. Next thing we're going to do is we'll create a 12-point star with a radius 1 of 500 points and a radius 2 of 75 points. We do that by clicking and holding our circle tool, and again we'll select our star tool and click anywhere on screen. Once again, we'll select radius 1, we'll make it 500 points, and we'll make radius 2 75 points. Change our points to 12, we'll click OK. Once done, let's change our fill color to green. Again, we'll click our fill, select a green from the menu that works. Looks good to me. We'll click OK. As we've done for our other elements, we'll align center horizontally and vertically as well. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a 12-point blue star. Let's get started with that. Again, with our star tool selected, we'll click anywhere on screen. And we'll change our radius 1 this time to 75 points, and we'll make radius 2 500 points. That makes our points opposite to our initial star. Let's go. Once we're done, again, we'll align it center horizontally and vertically. We'll do one more thing right now is we'll change our fill color to blue. Looks good right there. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape by grabbing our selection tool and clicking anywhere on our artboard. Now that we've got our page set, you'll notice that we've got a small star and a small circle that are completely invisible. Now, if we want to set up our page properly with a single layer, what we could do is we could select each individual element, right-click perhaps, select Arrange, and then click on Send to Back, Send Backwards, or of course the opposite, which would be Bring to Front or Bring Forward. Not being able to see the elements, of course, makes it a little bit tough. Let's keep arranging our shapes until we get it exactly how we want it. Again, we'll grab our green shape, right-click on it, select Arrange, and again, select Send to Back. Now that we've got that, we still don't have our star visible. We've got our circle visible. So what we're going to do is we'll click on this, we'll select our circle, and we'll right-click again, we'll select Arrange, and select Send Backward. Let's deselect, and that works. We've got our pieces exactly where we want them. However, is that the easiest way to arrange an object? The answer is no. The easiest way to do it is to use layers. So let's get started in teaching that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to open up our layers window. There's a few ways to do that. The first way is in this current layout, you can use your right toolbar to select layers. Click on that, and that opens up your layers windows. You can always click on it again, and it will close it. Another way to do it is you can go to Window and select Layers. It will bring it up. Again, another way to do it, as you might have seen, is to press F7, and that will open up your Layers window as well. Now that we've got our Layers window open, you'll notice that all of the elements appear on a singular layer. Let's go ahead and undo our past few moves so that the small star and small circle were in the back and our blue was the frontmost element. We'll do that by pressing Ctrl-Z or selecting Edit Undo. There we go, right there. Let's go ahead and move these elements into layers. First thing we're going to do is we'll select our blue star and we'll cut it. We can go Edit, Cut, or Ctrl-X. To place it in a new layer, what we'll need to do is we'll need to go to our Layers window and select Create New Layer from the bottom menu. We'll click on that. Notice our new layer is selected. All we need to do now is paste it into our layer. In this case, we want to place it directly in front of where it was previously. So we'll go to Edit, Paste in Front, or Ctrl-F. Note that the layer element is outlined in red, and take a look at our layer where our star was pasted in. Again, it is red, so you've got color coordination going on there. Let's continue to move our elements in layers. Let's select our green star. We're going to cut it again. We'll create a new layer by clicking on our Create New Layer button. And again, with our new layer selected, we're going to paste it in front. We'll paste it right into the new layer, just like that. We'll deselect that. And we're looking better because our main elements are now occupying their own layer. However, we do have a problem in that our star and our circle are still not visible. How do we get to those? Well, the advantage of having layers now is that we can reposition layers. For example, I can grab my green star layer and I can drag it to the bottom, and I can grab my blue star layer and I can do the same thing. I can grab that and drag it beneath the green layer, just like that. Now that our circle and star layer is visible, we can continue moving objects into their own unique layers. Let's go ahead and select layer 1. Let's select our circle. We'll cut it again. Let's create one more new layer. And with our new layer selected, let's paste our circle in there directly in front of where it was. Let's deselect our shape. And we're close. All we need to do now is move our circle layer directly beneath our star layer. That is exactly how we want our piece to look. Now, that being said, there's a few more things that we can do. First of all, when we build out complex shapes, it's always a good idea to name your layers. The way to name layers is easy. All you need to do is double-click on your layer and enter in the new name. In this case, we'll start with layer 1. We'll double-click on that. And let's rename this Yellow Star. We'll deselect, and our layer has been renamed. Let's continue naming the other three. We'll start with our circle. We'll call this red circle. Deselect that. We'll double click on our green star and rename it as such, green star. Once done, let's do the same thing with our blue star. Double click, rename it blue star. We'll deselect, and we're all set. Now, one advantage of having layers is that we can always bring the element that we want to work on directly to the front. You can see that with how I move the blue star to the front. I can edit this star, I can deselect it, and when I'm done working on it, I can reposition it to where I wanted it to be originally. Another thing I can do is I can remove other layers from sight. For example, I can click on the eyeball here and I can hide that layer. And if that layer is hidden, note I cannot select any elements appearing on it. That's always helpful if we want to work in elements in the back of our design or elements deeper in our design. Now, if we want to see our element but still lock it, all we need to do is toggle its visibility and then lock our shape. The way we do that is we click next to our eyeball and we will toggle that layer to be locked. So now, as you can see, while my star is visible, I cannot edit it at all. Instead, I can edit all the other three layers. If we want to work specifically on one layer and we want to keep everything else locked, here's an example of editing a layer and keeping the others locked. What I want to do is I want to reposition my star to fit exactly in the middle of my circle. The way I would do that is I'll unlock my star, but I will lock all my other layers. Now, with my selection tool selected, I can drag across my shape and notice that nothing is selected except for my yellow star. At that point, I can arrow it vertically until I'm happy with my shape. Then I can deselect and test it out. There you go. With that being done, all I need to do is deselect any and all of my layers, deselect any shape that I might have selected, and we are done. One of the important things that I'd said about layers previously was that I could export my Illustrator file. One of the powerful things about layers in Illustrator is if I export the Illustrator artwork, the layers can come along with it. So that's always a good positive thing. In this case, let me show you how to do it. The way I'll do that is I'll select File, and I will select Export. Once I've done that, I'll select Export As, and then I can fill in my file name. In this case, I'll write Layers, and change the type to Photoshop. Once done, all I need to do is select Export, and then once the Photoshop Export Options window opens, all you need to do is select your color model. In this case, since we're working to screen, I will select RGB. If I wanted to go to print, I would select CMYK, or if I wanted to be grayscale print, of course, I would select grayscale. Under resolution, we can select any different type. There are three defaults, of course, screen, medium, and high. If I'm just going to screen, which I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to select 72 points per inch. If I'm going to go medium, I'm thinking about perhaps producing something in a little bit higher resolution, or perhaps to newsprint. If I want to output to magazine, or maybe just to output to high resolution, I will select 300 points per inch, or of course other, when I can select a point per inch value larger than that. Again, in this case, I'm going to select screen. And then under options, I'm going to make sure Write Layers is selected. That will export my file along with the layers. Once done with that, I'll also be sure Maximum Editability is selected. And then in terms of anti-aliasing, even though I don't have type here, I always keep Type Optimized selected. Now that I'm done, I'll select OK. My Photoshop file writes, and we've exported to Photoshop. Now that we're done with that, officially, we are done. So there you have it. As you've seen, layers are easy to use, and they're a must-have to include in your Illustrator game. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments section below. Otherwise, throw me a like. I'd appreciate that. I'd appreciate it just a little bit more if you subscribe. I'll see you next time. See you.